we went out and we saw Violent Night in IMAX. If you haven't gone out to see it, Violent Night is probably the best way I can describe it, and it references it as a lot of people are going to say this, but it's like if you mix Die Hard and Home Alone and you put Santa Claus in there, but Santa Claus is John Wick.
Yes, John Wick, Santa Claus, Home Alone, a lot of references to it. You can kind of tell throughout the movie that that's what they wanted. Like they wanted a Home Alone slash Die Hard slash John Wick sort of movie. And you can tell, and they do a really great job at, nodding to those Christmas classics.
Yeah, they do a really good job. But I think where this movie thrives is I feel like this movie is one of the first movies to have an original take on Santa Claus. We saw it with Bad Santa, but he wasn't the actual Santa Claus. He was just a mall Santa. So that's just a dude. But this Santa, they give you some backstory. He ends up being a Viking, and then he's kind of at a point where he's given up on Christmas. So he's an alcoholic. He's barfing on people for jokes, and then he's pissing off his sleigh in the sky, delivering presents. So it's like Santa's kind of just going through the motions. He's pissed off, hasn't really adapted with the modern world. I mean, he's upset when kids ask for cash in video games, and then he doesn't really understand how guns work, which is, I think, is really funny. And then some people said this movie was cliche, but I think where it thrives is talking about Home Alone. And then I would always talk to you, like, wouldn't it be hilarious if they made like a R-rated Home Alone with adult Macaulay Culkin? And then he's just out here and he actually kills them, and you see the gore and the violence. And that's what they did in this movie.
Yeah. This movie, there's a lot of great things about Violent Night. And to give like a short, brief recap of it, David Harbour, he's Santa Claus, and he plays a really great Santa because all the Santas that you've seen in previous Christmas movies is seen as like this, jolly, happy, boisterous Santa Claus.
Almost like a spiritual being.
Yeah, almost like a godlike figure. But this Santa, he's very flawed. He's an alcoholic. He kind of like a rustic kind of Santa Claus, kind of more like a dad figure than he is anything else. And a lot of people don't even believe he's the real Santa in this movie. And that's kind of like
the joke.
I think it's a good take on like the modern world, Christmas becoming kind of like commercialized. But then also it's like all these other Christmas movies are really corny. And there's like every Christmas movie should have a little bit of corniness in it because that's what makes the holidays like, warm and fuzzy and shit like that. It warms your insides, unless if you're a Grinch like me. But in this movie, like, there's a good blend of violence, Christmas story, and then comedy. Yeah. And I think for a Christmas movie that you can watch with, your kids, if you're one of those parents.
There was a parent at the screening I saw. There was a birthday party. They had like their son Liam, I believe his name is. Shout out to Liam. So he was on screen and he was turning 9 and he saw this movie.
Yeah, maybe not for 9-year-olds. But overall, as a Christmas movie that you want to go with your friends or go with your significant other or go with your family, I think it's a good movie for that. It's a good blend of a lot of things.
Yeah, it's a good blend of a lot of things. And then really Santa's relationships with this girl in the movie who's she just watched Home Alone the night before. So,
and she's 9 too.
Yeah, she's 9. She sets up some traps. And then just the relationship with Santa and her, she's given a walkie-talkie by her dad who forgot to take her to the mall. And it kind of thrives because Santa only stayed around to protect that little girl because basically, if you don't know what it's a home invasion movie, but everyone else in the family's awful, but they play it in a
bunch of rich assholes.
The director in this movie, it's like you had this Blue Steel type character director where they're going around the room and they're like, they have to tell their daughter that Santa isn't real because they're asking who he is. And she's like, oh, I know Santa. And they're like, no, she's playing pretend. She doesn't know who he is. And like, Santa's not real. And then this guy's like, really?
No, it's great because like the family in this movie is very easy not to root for. Like you want them to fail. The mom, played by Jane Fonda, is like this very, very affluent, very rich businesswoman who's a total bitch to her parent, like to her kids. And then her kids are just trying to mooch up to him. The male character, I don't know his name off the top of my head. I think it was John Leguizamo. If I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken. No, John Leguizamo was the villain. The male character that was the father of the daughter that's committing all these traps. He was a shitty father that you could tell they kind of played that out. The daughter in this movie, that being the daughter of the mother, who's the billionaire, terrible woman. And then her husband or whatever he was is like the funniest douchebag in a Christmas movie. This guy, like, he's like Hollywood head up his ass kind of like, actor character
Yeah.
who for sure exists in the real world. There's
Yeah.
guys who are like him that exist.
Yeah.
So it's good commentary on Hollywood. It's good commentary on Christmas. It's good commentary on just, like originality of a Christmas movie. That's what I
Yeah.
really like.
Yeah, and I think it's original, but it leans into its tropes. But anything it takes from a movie, it builds upon, like Home Alone. This girl killed a man.
Yes.
She kills a guy in this movie, and then whenever it needs a breath, it'll take it. And then whenever it needs a creative death that happens, one thing this movie is very original with is the violence. You see Santa shove a star on top of a Christmas tree in someone's eye and then plug it in and set them on fire.
Yeah.
Or whether it's a lot of people die with icicles and candy canes in this movie, to say the least. So overall, I don't really have too many flaws because it's a wholesome movie. It makes you feel good coming out of it. I immediately want to go rewatch it. I've seen it twice now in theaters, and I'm probably going to go watch it again on Christmas, as many people should. But this is a movie where you're looking for a Christmas movie, or maybe you go to the theater and Avatar: The Way of the Water is sold out and you can't get tickets to that. Go see Violent Night, because that's a great second option to Avatar. And I think this movie deserves a lot of love. And David Harbour loses himself in the role of Santa. And it's like, you could tell it was David Harbour, but at a point where in the movie, you're like, no, I'm just watching Santa Claus. And then the originality they had, and then the running joke with the adults not believing in Santa, and kind of the commentary of how commercialized Christmas is. And it's kind of like kids open the present and then the magic goes away instantly. I thought this was a really good movie, commenting on modern Christmas times, and I thought it's going to be a classic for some people going down the road, because Christmas movies, when they first come out, it's not typically their instant classics. Like even Elf took a while to catch on.
Yeah, for sure. I think that if we're ranking this along with other Christmas movies, with its originality, like it takes a part of Home Alone and these other movies we talked about, but the rewatchability.
Yeah.
A lot of these Christmas movies, we don't go back to watch.
No.
How many times have you seen It's a Wonderful Life? Unless if your fucking grandmother forces you to watch it.
Yeah.
You don't choose to watch it. A lot of these Christmas movies, you see once, it's kind of like a classic because it's been called a classic. But rewatchability, I would never go back and rewatch It's Such a Beautiful Life if I had to,
Yeah.
But like Elf, Home Alone, and Violent Night, these three movies, I think these are the ones that have the most rewatchability for the fact that they're funny. You have classic characters in it, Buddy the Elf, Kevin McAllister, and in this case, Santa Claus.
Yeah.
You have reasons to go back to the movie. It's funny. It's
Even the villain is great.
yeah, the villain. We didn't even talk about John Leguizamo. Really great Christmas villain.
Yeah.
Like, he's played as basically the Scrooge character, and he's intimidating. I'm intimidated by this guy. Like, that it's a Christmas movie. You know that ultimately there's going to be a happy ending, but like, there's some serious doubt. Like,
Yeah.
he kind of had this family by the balls at one point, and definitely beat the shit out of Santa at one point.
Yeah, he's being the shit out of Santa. Definitely the most creative death for killing a main villain I've ever seen. And they even kill Santa at one point in the movie. And then John Leguizamo's character was intimidating, and I really liked how he had a backstory, why he has a reason to hate Christmas, and explain how it ruined his life growing up. And that's the reason why his life kind of led in that direction it did, which is why he was so obsessed with ruining Christmas for this family. And then eventually when he figures out Santa's real, then it's definitely an extra motivation for him to kick his ass. And then all the side villains were really good. We had 3 other characters. You kind of had this goth girl, this like dopey Canadian bodybuilder guy who is hilarious. And then when they start figuring out that he might actually be the real Santa, then John Leguizamo's character's freaking out on them, like, you guys need to pull it together. That's funny. And then they just have a psycho like sociopathic character that's pretty funny.
Who kind of looks like Julian Edelman.
Yeah, it kind of looks like Julian Edelman. So like overall, 4 really entertaining villains, and then all the characters in this movie fulfilled their role, especially Santa Claus.
Yeah, honestly, it's hard for me to give a movie a 10, but this movie, for a Christmas movie, for everything you would want in a Christmas movie, I think it checks off all the boxes, and it'd be hard for me to find a true critique of the movie.
Yeah, and some people say it's cheesy, but I think the humor hit.
I also think that the cheesiness is required in a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Like, if your criticism of a Christmas movie is that it's cheesy, it's like, it's a Christmas movie.
Mhm.
So, like, if it's overwhelmingly cheesy, like, you know that Christmas movie with Joel McHale in it?
Oh,
Yeah. See, exactly. Yeah. A Christmas movie with too much cheese is annoying. But a movie like this, like even Home Alone, it has a little bit of cheesiness at the end. It's like, oh my God, Kevin, we're home. We abandoned you for the entire movie, but we're home.
yeah.
And they see that, you know, he handles his business quite easily.
Or
But
the cheesiness of an 8-year-old being able to outsmart 2 grown men, or
yeah,
them not dying through that whole sequence.
even though he set them on fire, or, you know, all the things that he puts them through in Home
Yeah.
Alone.
We need to talk about next week all the times that the wet bandits should have died in Home Alone, because I can think of quite a few.
Yeah. So if we count both of the movies, there's at least 5 or 6.
Potential concussions.
Potential brain damage.
Yeah.
Potential, I don't know, being burned alive. Like opening a door and a torch goes off.
Yeah, I don't.
And they have propane on your head.
Yeah,
No, he would have died right there. Poor
I
Joe
don't-
Pesci.
I don't get how they got to a second movie with brain functionality.
Yeah, never mind the fact that they went out to New York, see him, and they don't run the other way.
Yeah,
They're like, oh, here he is. We got to get this little shit. Like, no, nope. I'm sorry.
no.
If I had an 8-year-old just fucking dominate me like that, and I go to jail for him because I got outsmarted by an 8-year-old,
Yeah,
no, I freak out.
and he could have called the cops at any time, but he chose
Nope.
just to fuck with you.
Nope. Mini Joe Burrow said no.
Mini Joe Burrow said no.